Welcome Facebook, welcome LinkedIn, welcome YouTube. I am so excited for today. Just, of course, always doing that quick check to make sure that everyone can hear me okay and see me okay. So if you're watching, let me know. Can you hear me? Can you see me okay? Let me check. Okay, I think we're good to go. When should you start preparing for law school? Like, really, when should you start? Should you start 2 years before you want to go to school? 3 years? 6 months? It's a little confusing. So today, that's what we're going to focus on. We're going to focus on when you should start preparing for your law school journey. For those of you who are new, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm the head of S. Montgomery Admissions Consulting, where we specialize in providing first generation and minority law school application support. And I am so excited for this episode because honestly, going to law school and making the decision that you want to go to law school is one of the scariest, one of the largest, but also one of the most rewarding decisions and inflection points in your life and career that you can have. So first off, if you are watching this and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm thinking of going to law school, but I don't really know when, I want you to first say, pat yourself on the back. Be like, okay, I decided to go to law school. Let's get it, right? Like, look at me. I'm taking steps toward my future. Because I think so often we forget to give ourselves our flowers, right? We're just like, I think I'm going to do this thing. And we're like running around crazy. And it's like, wow, look at you. Like, look at you. Look at yourself. Be like, we're doing this. We are doing this. We are getting ready to embark on a very beautiful journey in our legal career. And I want you to start this process with joy, with happiness, with self love, because this can be a process that is very stressful. And our goal here is to help take some of the stress out of that process, right? But I think you have to start intentionally from a place of this may be hard, this may be different from what I'm used to doing. I might have to do some confusing and new things, but my God, I'm amazing because I decided that I wanted to go to law school. And I'm going to keep that happy spirit because the happier you are and the more that you believe in yourself in this process, the more you will win, right? It's sometimes a little bit about mindset. We're going to talk about the Lsat exam. We're going to talk about your essays. But I want to make sure that we're starting this process off with a mindset of joy, with a mindset of happiness. This is just not what you find on the internet. It's mostly stress, right? But you don't make good decisions when you're stressed. I can say this from my own personal experience. When you're stressed, when you're overwhelmed, when you're anxious, when you're giving into all of those thoughts, you make subpar decisions. And then you're stressed about those decisions. So we're going to start from a place of abundance. We're going to start from a place of joy and self-congratulation and self-love and grace. And that is how we are going to make the best decisions in this law school process. But you're like, okay, but I practically want to know when I should start preparing for law school. Abundance is great, but like, give me some facts. We are going to talk about when you should start preparing for law school. I am going to give you a month by month breakdown of some of the things that you should be doing every month as we prepare for the law school admission cycle to open. I mean, it's, the cycle has sort of begun, generally, unofficially speaking, but applications open on September 1. And so we're going to talk about what it looks like to prepare in this season. And then we are going to talk about the importance of planning. If you have been watching pretty much any of my videos, you will know that I am a planner. I believe you need a plan for your LSAT exam and a plan for your essays. People usually only have one. We see how that works out. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. But first, let's start with just literally the basic, I don't know when to start preparing. So I give talks to pre-law societies all the time. And if you're watching this and if you're in college and you're in a pre-law society and you're like, oh my God, I want Sydney to come talk to us, please just send us an email, hello@smontgomeryconsulting.com. I will come talk to your pre-law group. I also have two very fantastic colleagues who are also willing to talk, and they are former admissions officers and former assistant directors of law school. So we have a lot of wealth of experience here, but we are so happy to come talk to your pre-law society if you would like. So just send us an email. But when I talk to pre-law societies, I'm talking to students across spectrums, right? There's freshmen, there's sophomores, there's juniors, there's seniors. And then, statistics say that only 20% of law school students actually go straight from undergrad to law school. So 80% of applicants, and also a lot of the applicants that we work with, are already out of school, right? I would say, in an ideal scenario, you would give yourself 12 to 18 months to prepare for the law school admission process. Literally, don't panic, because you're like, okay, but you're like, it's already May. You're not late. You're not behind. I promise you are right on time. But if you are thinking about going to law school this fall, now is a good time to start preparing, because there is a lot to prepare and plan for. If you give yourself more time, if you give yourself that, January timeframe, and I don't mean 12 months before the September date opens, right? I kind of mean the whole process from you start to prepare to you put a deposit down. It's great if you have 18 months. So that would be like January through, like maybe, if you're applying this fall, that would be January through next June. But even right now, you already have, if you start preparing right now, and it's April, it's almost May, you still have a little over 12 months for your entire process. And that's great. That's so great. And listen, if you find this video later and it's November and you're like, Sydney, it's okay. We'll figure it out. I don't want anyone to panic, but I do want to say that if you are thinking of applying to law school, and you're not sure when to start preparing, now is a great time. You can also start preparing too early, right? If you're a freshman or a sophomore in college, like you don't need to be messing with this right now. Why don't you just focus on school and getting good grades and making friends and living like your best college life? Because college was fantastic. And it, like they say, you only get 4 years, and they really mean that. Like, you only get those 4 years in college, and then afterwards you're just like, wow, remember when college was fun? And now I am not in college and I'm an adult, so treasure those years. You don't need 3 years of prep unless you really feel like you have a lot in your application that's going to need to be finessed. So a failing grade or criminal offense, or just a very complicated educational history. Maybe then you might need more time, because there's more things that we have to, again, finesse. If you do start earlier, like if you give yourself 2 years for the whole process, then, you can have that time to think intentionally about your extracurricular activities, your internships, building relationships with professors. Maybe there is an opportunity for you to do independent research, to write and get published. So it's less like I'm preparing for law school, and more just like these are the things that I'm taking advantage of with an eye toward the future. I would say that you want to also make sure that you have enough time to prep for your LSAT. So if you're a freshman or a sophomore, or even if you're a junior, we're going to talk. But if you're a freshman or a sophomore in college, or you're 2+ years out from this process, and you're like, okay, but Sydney, what is the one thing I can do today? I would say take an Lsat diagnostic test, because oftentimes that is a large part of when you should start preparing for law school. If you take an Lsat diagnostic exam and you score in the 120s or the 130s, you are going to need probably at least 6 months, if not more, of dedicated LSAT prep, probably more like 9 months of dedicated LSAT prep. Depending on what your goals are. And that's important too. So one of the things that you can do, if you're sitting here and you're thinking, what is it that I can do to prepare for law school right now, and you're a little bit ahead of the game, I want you to figure out what's important to you in a law school. What are the qualities that you're looking for? We're going to talk about this more in depth in later videos. What are the geographic constraints that you have? Are you only going to be looking at law schools in a certain area? Are you going to be looking at a certain practice area? Are you looking at a certain type of ranking? And I have a video on how much you should really care about rankings. But, starting to think about those things and then taking that LSAT diagnostic exam will help you answer the question, how much time do I need to prep? If all the schools that you really want to go to have medians in the 160s, and you took a diagnostic exam and it was in the 130s, it does not mean you cannot get there. It just means you're going to need time. Are you going to get there in 3 months? Likely no. Is it possible? Anything's possible. Is it likely? No, it's not likely, right? And so, sometimes students don't take that LSAT diagnostic exam until August because they think, I just need 3 months to study for the LSAT, which might be true. We usually recommend 3 months, 3 hours a day. But the caveat is you have to know what your delta is. Most students can improve on average about 10 to 12 points, with that kind of 3 to 4, 5 month window. If you say I need to increase 20 points, 30 points, it is possible, but it is not likely in a very short window. And it is possible if you really have a very strong tutoring plan or test prep course that is going to guide you through that. But if you are looking at trying to improve your score between 20 and 30 points, you need to give yourself at least 6 months of dedicated studying to the LSAT exam. I can already hear some of you say, but so-and-so raised their score in 2 months. It's possible. I'm just giving you what is likely and what's maybe not as likely. Prove me wrong. I would love to see that, right? I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled if you raise your score 30 points in 2 months. That's amazing. And sometimes some of you just need accommodations, right? And listen, you get that 50% extra time, your whole score could change. And that's amazing. But even if we think about the accommodations process, you need to get a psychologist or someone, a qualified professional to testify to your disability. They need to fill out their paperwork. You need to submit it to LSAC. Even that takes time. So I really think that you need to give yourself at least that 6-month window. Listen, we're right now, I'm recording this video, it's in April, almost May, right? Okay, so May, June, July, August, September, October. That's 6 months. If you take the August, September, or October LSAT exam, you will be just fine. You will still actually be early, and we're going to talk about timing, right? You can take the November exam. It's fine. October is better. November is fine. But you really want to try to take the LSAT exam in the fall. So if you're watching this and you're thinking about going to law school and you've done no prep whatsoever, now is a great time. Just told you that 6-month window. Now is a great time to take an LSAT diagnostic exam, figure out what kind of prep you want. We have a list of courses and tutors that we recommend. We don't get any financial incentive from them. Although if you are a student of ours, if you work with us on admissions consulting, you can actually get some discounts from some of those tutoring companies. And so that is a really great option as well. If you are an LSAC fee waiver student, LSAT Demon gives you 4 months of their basic plan for only $30. So there's a lot of options for you, right? If you're like, I don't know where to start. And it's not that if you're like, but I want to do this course and I don't see it on your website, Sydney. It's not that I'm saying it's a bad course. I'm saying these are the courses that my students have had fantastic success with. And we've worked with almost 200 students. So, that's where I'm going to recommend you. The other courses and things, either I haven't had as many students who have found success, or I haven't had as many students who have tried them. Kind of, it could go either way. There are some programs that my students have not found success with, kind of on average, and so they're not recommended. So the courses that you see on my website are the ones that my students have taken, and they've told me about their experiences, and I've seen proven results. And so those are the ones that we recommend. So if you have no idea where to get started, taking an LSAT diagnostic exam this weekend, it's a great weekend. So, you can reward yourself by going outside. It's beautiful outside. Take an LSAT diagnostic exam this weekend. Figure out your score And then make a plan for your test prep. That's so important. I also want to emphasize, I've been talking a lot about how long it takes to study for the Lsat exam. It also takes about 3 months to get your essays looking fantastic. Essays, plural, plural. Your personal statement, your diversity statement. Most of you should be writing a diversity statement, and also any supplemental essays that you may have, your addenda, your resume, all of your written components. It's going to take at least 3 months to get them like looking beautiful. That's why we have our boot camps. They're 12 weeks long, right? It takes 3 months. I've been doing this for almost 8 years. Like, you want to come in here and be like, all right, let's do it 2 weeks. Like, let me get my essays out in 2 weeks. Those are going to be trash essays. That will help you try to get them from like really trash to only little trash. But if you only give me 2 weeks, there's just not a lot we can do. If you only give yourself 2 weeks, you are shooting yourself in the foot. You are not maximizing your opportunities. You have an abundance of opportunities right now because it's almost May. You have so much time. You want to give yourself that 3 to 4 month window to write very beautiful, very impactful, very authentic essays, right? It's so important. Your LSAT score is important, but your writing is also equally important. And I've worked with a lot of students. Most of my students end up applying at or maybe a little below the medians, but their essays have helped carry them through, right? 78% of our students have gotten into a top 30 law school. It is so important that you focus on your essays. Law schools want to admit people. They don't only want to admit test scores. And so you want to make sure that you are presenting the strongest package. And so that's going to take at least 3 months, right? If you're really doing it right. Okay, May, June, July. And you're studying for the LSAT. So maybe it takes a little bit longer because you're doing both, and maybe you're working. Most of our students do that trifecta, right? Working, LSAT, and studying, and writing their essays. It's possible, it's very doable, but it's so much easier when you give yourself time. Applications open on September 1st for most schools. Some schools, the applications open as late as October 1. You want to try to get your applications in, ideally by Halloween, maybe definitely by Thanksgiving, right? There are a lot of schools that timing really matters. Not equally for every school, but there are a lot of schools where that timing does matter. There are some schools that give scholarships out on a rolling basis, and when they run out, they run out, right? There are a lot of schools that are able to be more holistic in their judgment earlier in the cycle than later in the cycle when they have fewer spots, where they've already kind of given away the spots that were earmarked for students below the medians. So you really want to make sure that you are applying and giving yourself your best chance, right? So the fall is the best time for you to try to apply. So if you start working on these things now, you will inevitably end up just less stressed. You will have a smoother process, and you will have better outcomes. Because what you don't want is you don't want to apply in January or February and then be like, damn, I wonder what would have happened if I applied in September, because you'll never know unless you decide to reapply, which no one wants, right? So just do it right the first time. This is law school. This is your career. This is your future. Do it right the first time. Start early. Start now. Now is the time. When should you best apply to law school? Now you should start, right? Figure out what are those factors that are important to me in a law school. Figure out what qualities are going to make you happy. Think about geography. Think about rankings to some degree, right? But think mostly about their employment data, their bar passage rate, their median salary. Those are numbers that aren't really as susceptible to change and volatility as the U.S. News and World Report rankings. I want you to be thinking about your own internal reasons for why you want to go to law school. That's very important, because if you don't have clarity in yourself, your application will not have clarity. You have to know why you want to go to law school, or you cannot at all. convince and persuade someone else that you want to go to law school. If you seem unorganized, they will see that you are unorganized. If you seem conflicted and all over the place and confused, they will see that you are conflicted and all over the place and confused. So you need to have surety in yourself. I'm going to law school to do this, to affect this kind of change. And like fact check it. Sometimes people tell me things and I'm like, that's not a job. That's just not how the system works. And they're like, but I saw it on TV and nope, that's just not a job. Right? So do some research on what actual lawyers do and what those job fields are. I'm not saying you can't be innovative, but you probably won't be innovative on your first year. And if you are just making up jobs in your application, it is a little confusing also to admissions. So let's not do that. Let's have some well-researched and well-informed ideas so that they know, wow, this person knows that law school is a very large investment financially and with their time. They've done research. They understand why law school is the next logical step for them. They understand the career and the profession. They seem focused, driven, and motivated. That's the kind of person we want in our school, right? That's what you want to portray because you probably are focused, driven, ambitious, and you need to convey that in your application. Right? So that first starts with doing that inner work, that starts with yourself, that starts with getting very sure and getting clarity. And then you want to give yourself time to brainstorm. And I usually suggest and I teach my students a very large universal brainstorm where we're brainstorming all of the significant moments in their life, both positive and negative, personal, professional, not just related to law, not just what law school wants to see. That way we can see the different threads and narrative in your life, right? And we can create and weave that story with different moments that makes your life come alive on the paper in 2 pages. It's very important. And also we can use that brainstorming for your diversity statement and all of your supplemental essays. So that's also, you want to give yourself time for that, time to refine, time to get it edited, either, by a consulting firm or by your mom or your grandma, or your teacher or your pre-law advisor or your husband or your wife, whatever it is, right? But you want to have time for that feedback loop because your first draft is not going to be your last draft. Shouldn't be. Like there's probably going to be four or 5 drafts. And that's pretty standard and pretty normal. And so give yourself time for that iterative writing process. So what should you be doing? Like I said, April, May, I'm going to give you this month by month timeline, right? So right now, I'm going to walk you through what every single month might look like. That way you kind of have an idea of like, okay, this is what I'm doing this month and I feel good about it, right? So in May, April and May, you should be taking your Lsat Diagnostic Exam. You should be picking what test prep you're going to do. And I suggest starting with either a test prep class or program before moving to a tutor. You want to start developing an initial list of schools based off the criteria that we discussed: geography, rankings, bar passage rate, employment score, programs, size of the community, diversity, median salary, faculty engagement. You want to start brainstorming your essays, and you want to make sure that you're registering with the LSAC, the Law School Admission Council. There you will be able to attend digital forums, live in-person forums, purchase the credential assembly service. I also think this is a great time, if you haven't already, to apply for an LSAC fee waiver. If your income is below a certain threshold, you can qualify for an LSAC fee waiver. That waiver will allow you to get 2 LSAT sittings for free, depending on the tier of the fee waiver you have, as well as a certain number of schools you'll be able to apply without paying the credential assembly service fee. It also will give you some discounts. Like I said, LSAT Demon gives you 4 months for $30 if you have the LSAC fee waiver. We give very generous discounts, sometimes 10%, sometimes 20% off of our services if you have an LSAC fee waiver. So you want to apply for that as soon as possible. Now is a great time to apply if you think that you're eligible, because they do tend to get backed up over the summer. And you just want to make sure that they're able to process it very smoothly so you can take advantage of all of the opportunities and discounts. If it gets stuck and it takes them a few months to get to you, then you're probably going to have already paid for whatever you need to pay for. and you're not going to be able to get all of those discounts. Now, we retroactively apply that discount if you get the fee waiver later, but not all services do. So you want to be applying for that fee waiver now, thinking about LSAT accommodations now. If you have ever had an issue or history of issues with standardized tests, or if you've ever had a IEP in school or a 504 plan, or you just feel like you have test anxiety or migraines or whatever it may be, now is the time to start exploring that with yourself, with your doctor, with your mental health professionals. All right, so then over the summer between June and August, you want to be taking the LSAT exam. You want to be working on your personal statement and your diversity statement, ideally getting these main components of your application done over the summer. You want to make sure that you're securing your letters of recommendation. That is so crucial because also sometimes professors take a really long time, and you don't want to be ready to hit submit in September and then waiting for a professor. That's like the worst possible feeling. You want to continue to attend virtual info sessions, in-person information sessions at schools, those forums. This is the time, I say this every summer, like make relationships with admissions. There are some schools like American. American is fantastic because they have these free like Zoom chats with admissions officers. You can just sign up for one and get to know them. I love that. I love that accessibility. It's so great. And so there are a lot of schools that do something similar. Oftentimes, students don't think about making relationships with admissions until it's waitlist season. And then it's like, okay, yeah, obviously you're trying to build a relationship with me because you're on the wait list. And it's just not helping you very much. But if you really cultivate that relationship in a professional, courteous way, in the ways that they've said they want you to contact, like please don't email them every week. That's not okay. But if you follow the mechanisms and the ways and the vehicles that they have made for you to contact them, and you have a pleasant relationship and pleasant rapport with them, then by the time you hit submit and the time it comes to decisions, they're going to remember you and know who you are. And even if you do end up waitlisted, they know you, which is better than some random Joe who's just trying to get to know them then, right? So you want to take the summer to make those relationships with admissions. It's so, so, so important. I have a video on that as well. If you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because you'll see that video on how to cultivate relationships with admissions. You want to send your transcripts over the summer because transcripts can take a long time too, and same thing with letters of recommendation. You don't want to be ready to hit submit and waiting on an administrative backlog. In September and November, when applications open, you want to make sure that you're drafting your optional or supplemental essays. There are a lot of fellowships and scholarship programs that are due late, like summer, like August, or early fall, like September or October. So one of the other things you can be doing now and over the summer is compiling a list of outside scholarships. We actually have a database at the bottom of our website, smontgomeryconsulting.com. You can scroll to the bottom, you'll see the link on scholarships. We have a database of scholarships that we've been collecting and continue to collect, and also some free ones that LSAC has put on their website. But you want to be looking at outside scholarships for law school. Sometimes it's outside scholarships for graduate school generally, and you can use those funds towards your law school. So you definitely want to be trying to get as many scholarships as possible and writing those scholarship essays. And then you want to try to hit submit in the fall, and then that way you might start getting interviews in like October or November. So in that time, you're going to be maybe getting some interviews, maybe continuing to apply to outside scholarships, finishing up any last applications. By December, you should actually have started to hear back from some schools if you applied that early. You will start maybe receiving also some waitlist offers that you may need to respond to. Keep applying to scholarships. I'm just going to keep saying it. Keep applying to scholarships. You might want to send updated transcripts in January if you're still in school. That's always a great update. You want to be continually making updates as well. That way, in the event that you're waitlisted, you do have something to say. And then, this time next year, you'll be receiving the rest of your law school admissions. You'll be making those decisions, responding to waitlist offers, writing letters of continued interest, going to admitted student days, all of that stuff. And a waitlist can go as long as the summer. So hopefully that like month by month breakdown was really helpful. so that you can kind of get a sense of the entire picture. There is a lot that happens after you hit submit. There is a lot of work still to be done, right? Because law school is on a rolling admission cycle, which means that even though you apply in the fall, you might start hearing back from things that you have to respond to in the fall. So your work is not done. But the earlier you can do this, the better it is. So if you start now, you will be in a better position for the fall. And I think that's really important. That brings me to my last and third point, which is planning. And I know I feel like I've been talking more this video than I normally do. But when we talk about planning, you want to think about, okay, what is my plan for the LSAT exam? When am I taking it? Do I have enough time to study? All those things we talked about. And also, what is like the overall picture? When is like my backup date? So I'm going to take it in August, and if not, I'll take it in October, or if I have to take it again. And then what is your plan for your essays? When am I starting my personal statement? When do I want my personal statement draft to be done? When do I want to start my diversity statement? Making all of those out on a calendar. We actually have quick start essay plans as well. They start as low as $35, and they have included some of those timelines to work through some of the course materials that will get you to your first personal statement draft, and it will help you stay organized. So that's something that we really are, proud of, and really emphasize that you need to have a plan, because if you don't have a plan, you plan to fail. That's basically it. If you don't have a plan, you're planning to fail. I don't think any of you want to plan to fail. So let's make plans. Let's make real tangible plans with dates, right? Because a plan is only just a dream if it doesn't have any dates and actionable goals and steps. So hopefully that helps you as you begin your law school journey. I'm going to take some questions now because I see that there are a few. Should I consider visiting schools before I apply in the fall? If you live close to the schools, absolutely. If you would have to pay a lot of money to travel to the schools, it's really not worth it. Then I would say visit virtually. You want to do research and information about every school that you are thinking about applying to. So many students, literally, they just put schools on their list, they just apply, they don't know nothing about the school. And then the school asks them, well, why do you want to go to this school? And they're like, I have no idea, you're ranked, I don't know, right? Like they don't know. And so the more that you can research, the more that you can get to know admissions. I was talking about building those relationships with admissions. Visiting is a fantastic way to do so. But also understand that cost is a real thing. And you may want to go back to the school if you get in for an admitted students day. And so I don't want you spending unnecessary money. So if you can afford it and it's not a big deal, sure. If the school lives near you, or if you live near the school, that's also fine, right? I think that would be amazing. A really good thing for you to do. But if it's far away, if it's going to be expensive, if it's difficult to visit the schools, like this is not an expense that you need. Because I also don't need you like visiting schools that you may or may not get into, like paying to visit them. That's why it's so great that we have all these virtual information sessions, virtual tours, virtual ways for you to connect with the school as well. When does it make sense to reapply without retaking the LSAT? I'm happy with the school I committed to, but I received a little scholarship money. I'm public interest focused and plan to do LRAP and public service for forgiveness, but I worry that these programs will limit my options. I'm thinking of reapplying to try to get into schools with less restrictive LRAP programs like Yale, Harvard, etc., but I refuse to retake the LSAT. This is a tricky question. And I remember, I think you're committed to UCLA if I remember correctly. So you have to ask yourself, maybe, why did I not get in to those top schools? Now, no one can guarantee anything in admissions, and the top schools are kind of like a toss in the air for anyone, right? But you can't, and you should not, just submit the same application in the fall and think that you're going to get dramatically different results unless you happen to apply in February. And then maybe submitting in the fall would make, a lot of sense. But if you applied in December or even January, I mean, for Yale, it doesn't really matter, right? Yale does not really have a rolling admission cycle. if you're someone that's like way above the medians, then I would say let's look at your essays. Let's see if there's things that you could do to improve. But it's very risky because there is no guarantee that you would get in, right? And I have an entire breakdown of schools with LRAP programs and the differences. Um, there aren't a lot of schools that have, that much in terms of, um, flexible LRAP programs. And so it's like a needle in a haystack, right? Like you're really going for this very small situation. um I know, because I know you've asked a lot of questions here, that you, I feel like, have like maybe some disquiet about committing to UCLA, and I think maybe that might be something to internally explore, because it's also very a highly ranked law school. um I think it depends on what your LSAT score is. I don't know what it is. But, if your LSAT score is like not that high, and maybe UCLA was already like a reach school and that you got in and it's amazing, and you don't plan on taking the LSAT exam again, I would say that's too risky to try, because there's no guarantee that you will get into those top schools, and you may not even get into UCLA again if you turn them down, right? That's very likely that they will not. I mean, you would have to explain to them why. And I know that we've talked about this a little bit, but like just needing more scholarship money is not, they're not going to be super thrilled with that idea. Unless there is like some other financial reason why you couldn't commit, but then your finances changed later. Um, if your LSAT score is very, very high, though, that's a different conversation. So, with you deciding that you don't want to retake the LSAT exam again, I think you just need to look and see where you're scoring, and what is that in relationship to some of the school's medians. What are some parts about your application that can change, right? Obviously, always your essays, but what are the parts of your application that aren't changing? And are the parts of your application that aren't changing, are they in your favor or not, such that this would be, less risky versus more risky? I think that's kind of how you have to do that. Hopefully that helps. I'm always happy if you want to book a strategy call. You can book a strategy call on our website, under law school, and we can, have more of a, maybe like an hour long conversation, and we can talk about that. And I can kind of get into a little bit more in the weeds of like your specific situation, and, what you're thinking about and what makes sense from a strategy standpoint. But that's a good question. Are there any other questions before we close today? No. I hope everyone is very excited to start their law school process. I hope everyone is going to take a diagnostic exam this weekend and then reward themselves by going outside, because this is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful weekend, at least here in Maryland where I am. I definitely think that you should remember to go into this process with peace and happiness. Remember, congratulate yourself. You are doing a big thing. You have made the decision to go to law school, and that is worth celebrating. We party in advance here, yeah? We celebrate in advance of all of the goodness that's going to come to you. We want you to go into this process with an abundance mindset, with a mindset of joy and happiness, and not stress and overwhelm, because you're smart, you're capable, you're brilliant, you're determined, you're focused. You are everything that a law school wants, and you just have to keep telling yourself that. Let's pray. Dear Heavenly Father, I just want to thank you for the gift of these your children. I just want to thank you for being there with us, for bringing us this far on our journey. Some of us have traveled farther than others, but thank you for giving us wisdom. Thank you for reminding us that we are wonderfully made, that you have made us in your image, and that we are capable, smart, and just purpose-driven individuals. Thank you for calling us to this path, for giving us the inclination that we need to take the next step to become an attorney. Thank you for putting resources in our way that are going to help us on our journey. Thank you for giving us focus and clarity in advance, especially for those like myself who have focus issues and ADHD. I thank you in advance for the focus and clarity we need to be successful in this process, and the motivation we need to continue to pushing even when it's hard. Dear Heavenly Father, I just ask that you would be there with us as we embark on this journey, that you would be there every step of the way, that you would illuminate the path for us and allow us to take the path of least resistance towards our goals, towards what you have called us, that you would remove dangers in our way, that you would block obstacles, that you would just be a way maker and pave over any pitfalls and holes and distractions that we might potentially encounter, that you would just keep us on the straight and narrow, that you would silence all the negativity, the naysayers and the haters that are trying to come into our ear, that you would just give us a tunnel, that you would just block our ears so that we only hear goodness, that we would remember to give ourselves self-love, and that we would remember to treat ourselves with grace, even in the midst of confusion, anxiety, and worry, that you would just let us stay on our island of peace and tranquility. I ask that you would just send your angel to wrap a blanket around us, that you would just come into this place, dear Heavenly Father. I ask that you send your guardian angels over each and every one under the sound of my voice. I ask that you would just be with them, that you would just be a force shield around them, that you would wrap them in your loving, capable arms and take them safely to the end of their journey. Dear Heavenly Father, I just ask that you would give them clarity and wisdom in choosing where to go to law school and how to do their path. I ask a special prayer for the individual that is really trying to think about his future or her future, that this individual is not really sure if they should apply to law school again, if they should keep their current law school decision, if they would get more if they reapplied. I ask that you come into this situation, this confusion and this chaos and this disorientation. I ask that you would make it straight, that you would make it clear, that you would send a sign, that you would move like only you can move so that we know, okay, this is the direction that the Lord wants me to go. So I just ask that you would be with that person, that you would take them and remove the anxiety and the confusion that they are feeling, and that you would fill them with your peace that surpasses all understanding. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you in advance for all that you are doing here with this company, with our growth and expansion, that you would continue to bless it and wrap your arms around it and shield us, dear Heavenly Father. And I ask that this message would impact lives, that there would be those that would listen, that would know that law school is the path that you are calling them on, and feel equipped to begin that journey. I thank you for all that you are doing. In your Son Jesus' precious name, amen. So guys, thank you. Thank you for just your wonderful questions, your insight, and your dedication. If you are looking to get started and you don't know where to get started on your essays, please, please, please reach out. We have quick start essay plans. They start as low as $35 a month. We also have our law school application boot camps. They're 12 weeks long. After the boot camp, the boot camp will make sure that you get your personal statement, your diversity statement, your resume, your addenda, all finished within those 12 weeks, so you will be ready to hit submit when September starts. If you want to make sure that you have that kind of structure, that you have a curriculum to follow, I definitely encourage you to check out our boot camps. We only have one more spot left for May. I think we have 2 or 3 spots left for April. That starts on April 28th, and the May one starts on May 18th. They're all after working hours on the Eastern Coast, and they're all recorded in case you need to miss a session. They also come with office hours. They come with 4 private sessions. They come with 3 outside hours of editing. So if you're looking for structure and help on your process, please sign up for our boot camps. You can just go to smontgomeryconsulting.com/bootcamp and you will find all of the information, or on our main law school page. If you need anything, don't hesitate to reach out to us at hello@smontgomeryconsulting.com. We are still giving away a couple of those free 30-minute chats with Alice Foley, our associate law school consultant, who was a former assistant director of admissions for the last 6 years. She spent almost the last decade working on the other side of the desk, literally reading application files. She is so excited to talk to you. We have a couple more spots left for those free 30-minute chats with her. You can sign up right on our website. Otherwise, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If you liked this, make sure that you like and subscribe, rate and review if you're listening to the podcast, share it with a friend, and I will see you guys right back here next week on Friday. Have a beautiful weekend.